Welcome, everyone, to Music Junkies, a podcast about people sharing extraordinary stories about how music has impacted their lives.
Welcome, everyone, to Music Junkies. I'm your host, Annette Smith, and today's guest is Darren Bruce. With 30 years experience in TV, broadcasting, I know that you're a die-hard love for nightclubs, right? And that obviously led you to hosting and producing the DJ sessions for years, right? I think when I looked into your stuff, it's phenomenal to think that you did over 2,300 episodes. That is insane. Obviously interviewing great DJs, producers, electronic music professionals. And I don't think there's ever really a dull moment in your life. So welcome to the show, Darren.
Thank you very much for having me.
So I have to ask, right? Obviously, with your tons of music knowledge, what was your experience putting your playlist together for me today?
And it was hard because I've gone through many musical genres through the course of my life. When I was a child growing up, I was influenced by the likes of Queen, Fleetwood Mac, Supertramp on my dad's side, and then also growing up in the '70s, having a huge influence of disco. But then my brothers were also into rock music, Black Sabbath, AC/DC, and those kind of bands and rock music. So um, I kind of like loved the '70s disco music because it was dance, it was fun. Then going into the '80s pop with the synthesizer and the evolution of that in the '80s pop. But then I started dabbling into rap music as a child. I was just talking about this in an interview that I did about a couple hours ago, that I asked the artists what was their first album they bought, and they came back to me and said, "What was the first album you bought?" And I thought it was in the '90s, though. It was Depeche Mode, um, Personal Jesus. And but it was actually, I think, Paula Abdul's Straight Up was the first cassette single that I bought as a kid. But I went all the way back to my youth, and I think the first tape that I ever purchased was Run DMC Raising Hell.
Nice.
That kind of led me into a pathway of rap music, which then led me into the Beastie Boys. And my first concert that I ever went to at 12 years old was the Beastie Boys and Fishbone. And then a year later in '87, came back and saw Run DMC and the Beastie Boys at 13 years old. And then Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. And I kind of got into rap music in my teen years, but it was later on in life. One of my first jobs out of high school was working at a record store. And kind of knowing all different parts of different types of music and helping people select what they were looking for got me interested in different types of music. And we're always playing new music in the store, listening to that. But I started getting into, I remember listening to the track Sadness by Enigma. The monks, the Gregorian chanting, the monks then, and that kind of got me into some down tempo music. Down tempo ambient. Our Deep Forest was around at that time as well. So here I am listening to, you got living in Seattle, you got Nirvana, Soundgarden, and Red Hot Chili Peppers and Lollapalooza and all that going on with grunge music hitting it. I'm listening to rap music over here, when I cruise around in my Cadillac, but I also listen to this down tempo ambient music that I thought was really cool. And at the music store, I met my friend Alex, and he introduced me to Arnold. And they asked me one night if I wanted to go out dancing to a nightclub. And I had been to some nightclubs before the age of 16, the underage clubs, but they were playing top 40 hip hop rap, the top 40 tracks at the time, which was very hip hop or rap influence. But they took me to a nightclub, and this is where I first got my taste of underground electronic music. And I saw Donald Glaude. He's a local Seattle DJ, but pretty big name now in the industry, been around for 30 years roughly, and fell in love with watching the dance clubs. It was a different kind of dance club than a top 40 dance club. It was an underground electronic house dance music vibe. So here I got all these styles of music in my teen years playing in my head. And, I'd go back home and go cruising the strip in my Cadillac with 215s, bumping Too Short in the back, which is in my list there. But then I go down to the dance clubs and listen to this dance music, and it would get into the likes of like Delight. Groove everyone knows Groove is in the Heart, but she does some phenomenal other tracks on her albums, and just had a very wide array of music in my background. So later in life, going forward, I started getting really more into down tempo ambient for what I like. And there's an internet station that I cannot talk enough about of that I found in college. It's by a company out of San Francisco called Soma FM, and they have a number of different internet radio stations. But one of the more prominent ones is one called Groove Salad, which is all down tempo ambient beats. And I've
Fun.
been listening to it for the last, oh gosh, is it 19 years? Wow. I didn't realize.
Getting old.
No, I'm not. But I didn't realize, God, this will be almost 20 years I've been listening to that station. And it's what I put on if I'm not doing work and I'm listening to electronic music or other types of music in the background. Everyone knows, any one of my friends knows. As a matter of fact, in the interview I was just doing, I will literally be taking Groove Salad with me to the grave. There will be a way on my tombstone that you will be able to come up and hit a button, and like a solar panel and a computer or something will be there, and you'll be able to listen to Groove Salad and go, I know he's listening to it up there, but it's that like if I'm working, it's Groove Salad, and they have a number of phenomenal artists they have in rotation on that station. If I'm driving in the car, it's Groove Salad, but I do like classical music sometimes. But it's not because I'm getting old. I'm surrounded with electronic music
That's
all
right. I
the
love
time
it. I love
with
it.
the events that we
Doesn't answer
do.
the question though.
Then
It
that
doesn't
goes.
answer the
And
question.
what was the question? Dang it! What was the question?
Your experience putting your playlist together.
Oh, my experience with playlists. No, what it is, I'm just trying to show that I have a wide range that can go all
Ah,
over the place.
and I
Is what
like
I was
that.
trying to say.
I appreciate that so much because I feel like that's what I love about doing our show. It's so rare that I have a guest on here that just likes one band or one genre of music. And I really thought that that's where it was going to go. So must be attracting the right people because I like everything as well. So that's the types of guests that I attract. So I love
Well,
that you love everything, and a little comment on Delight. That's what they called me in high school, right? Because I like obsessed with Delight. Like I used
yeah.
to dress like her, and my clothes were like her, and that's where I got like my big clunky shoes. I thought that that's what I was going to do for a living, was literally create big clunky shoes. And I created these ones where you could put like a goldfish in them, and
Yeah.
I did all that crazy stuff, right? But I think I'm older than you, but I was pretty hardcore back then.
Don't let the Zoom filters fake you. I turned 48 next week.
Okay, we're the same age.
Yeah.
Anybody that you were going to these clubs, are you a good dancer?
I used to dance.
Yeah.
I can cut a rug if I want to, but
Okay.
I get I'm kind of spoil myself. I'm not spoil. I kind of, how do I put it? I don't want to get what's the word? Aristocratic about my dance styles. I like to be able to move, and I like to be able to have room. I don't like being in a club like
Mhm.
this and then going and watching them play like this, and there's people around, then they push the crowd and you're
Yeah.
moving like this and you're watching a show. I like to be able to move. I like to be able to flow. I like being up on stage. That was the club I was telling you about, the underground that I went to. They had a stage. And what I would do is I would go play pool while my friends were out on the dance floor as the dance floor was warming up. And when I finished my game of pool, because we get there about 10 o'clock, and about 11:30 is when the crowd would really come in.
Yeah.
Then I'd walk over, look at the stage, and I'd look at the floor and there's no room on the floor. So I'd get up on the stage and I'd be dancing in front of the whole club. So I just got used to doing that. If I can't be up on a kind of pedestal and dance, then I won't dance. I mean, I'll be off to the side, but then I'm not really in the mix. So yes, I had some dance moves. I danced a lot as a kid, a lot as a growing up. Even in my earlier shows of the DJ sessions, I would have to dance because the DJ would be sitting there and they'd be doing their DJ thing. And they didn't really weren't personable with the camera at that time back then. So I'd be dancing next to him for 4 hours. People would tune into the show just to watch me going, is this guy on drugs? Is this guy high on something? He's been dancing like they're eating popcorn, doing whatever they're doing at home, watching this, going, he's been doing this for like 4 hours. How can he have that much energy? I'm just bouncing up and I'm basically doing aerobics for 4 hours
Yeah.
because I wanted to have some energy to the show and let the DJ show somebody was dancing. It was a very hard way. It's very hard for them to adjust because they're normally playing in front of a crowd where they have an audience they can have response to and see how good they're doing. When they're in a studio and no one's there, they're like, how do I know if I'm mixing good or not? Nowadays they've acclimated
Yeah.
to it, but yeah, I was kind of their litmus test of, yeah, yeah. And you can go back and watch those episodes on our website. You can go back and watch some of the first episodes I did before I even started live streaming the DJ sessions. And I was just testing out the streaming platform, like dialing for dollars, making hot dogs, the karaoke shows that I would do,
Yeah.
which kind of got me into the whole platform. And before we started live streaming DJs, because that really, the DJ sessions wasn't really the first series I produced. They kind of came out of a culmination of broadcast television shows that I was airing on NBC at the time, the local NBC affiliates that were approved to air on like 12 stations on the West Coast. And we were going to get financing for all that. And then all of a sudden, this thing called YouTube came out. And we were like, we looked at it and we thought it was just going to be YouTube, like you people talking to the camera. And
Yeah.
it's not broadcast tube. That's not us. So we totally passed by on this YouTube thing. But just right around the corner, I was working for Apple at the time, and the video iPod came out. And that we felt was a niche because we could get on iPods, and because YouTube wouldn't play on an iPod. So you had to figure out
Yeah.
how to get a video on an iPod. It wasn't a YouTube video on an iPod, not until a couple years later till the iPhone came out and the YouTube app was made. So we wanted to be on all the iPods because that was the
The
78,
thing.
80% of the people in the world had an iPod. And if they knew they were going to pick up a video iPod, they could carry around our shows with them and watch them on the go and subscribe to them and download them. And so we had some really awesome success there in the podcasting world, and kind of abandoned the broadcast television world for podcasting, and then later on getting into live streaming and everything. A lot of people don't understand the backbone support of our show is we are actually more of a podcast site than we are a live streaming site. It's kind of both in the same. We live stream our shows and then we podcast them.
Yeah.
But not in the we do it all on our own servers, so we make sure we control our branding.
I like that though.
Really
That's a good
huge.
idea. That's important
Yeah.
to do.
Mhm.
We're gonna start with your first song. Are you ready?
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. Pull it up here.
I like this.
So I can't pronounce the song's name, but the band is called Air.
Air La Femme D'Argent.
Oh, and hello.
No, okay.
Tell me a little bit about this song. Like, is there a
Yeah.
certain memory that brings up for you?
Yeah, I remember the first time I heard this song, and I go back. My friend Alex that I mentioned earlier, that I used to go out clubbing with, came to me one time, and we were driving home from the club. And says, I got this track. You got to listen to this. I'm like, all right, cool. And he puts it in, and we've been drinking that night, hanging out and drinking and stuff. And he's driving home, and he's like, listen, this is so awesome. And I had been into a little down tempo ambient at that time, and all of a sudden I do this thing that we started doing as kids. And we used to flow. We used to like have flow battles, just make stuff up off the top of our head and rap against each other and try to beat the other one. And I started doing this, flowing over the song. And he just said, just shut up and listen to the song. And I was like, ew, like, dude, we've been doing this for years. And looking back, I can get it now because that is such a momentous song to me. I love that song. Actually, that song there is the opening track for my funeral.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that will be the song that, like, when everyone's here, and La Femme D'Argent plays.
I love
That's
that.
my opening song, and I love it so much because it's just so playful. I kind of see like two entities are kind of playing with each other throughout the song. If you listen to the whole song, it's like I don't know how to explain it, but it's in my head. It's like two cartoon characters or nymphs in the wood, kind of like a nymph in the wood playing with a bumblebee. It's kind of like chasing it around, and they're both in this magical forest having a great time doing it. And it's just so peaceful and awesome. I just love that track so much.
My funeral song is Wasp, Forever Free.
Wasp, Forever Free.
Have you ever heard it? You should. I don't know if it would still be, but I remember growing up, I'm like, oh, I would love this song at my funeral. It's pretty hardcore though. So what's your favorite mantra?
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, what's on my Facebook, because I learned this from my father. Believe nothing of what you hear and only half of what you see. Especially in entertainment, almost believe nothing of what you see
Yeah,
because it's all made up. I mean, it's
I
lights,
know.
camera, action, and we're real people. And that's what I do love about podcasting is you get kind of a real, you don't get necessarily a Hollywood production
Yeah,
out of it. And I like to be real with people and be honest. And so like I've had people kind of get a little intimidated when I do my shows because I'll be like, hey, Annette, okay, we're gonna get ready to do this show. It's gonna be cool. And then I go, okay, ready? And they go, I'm ready. And I go, all right, in 5, 4, 3. Welcome back to the DJ sessions where we feature the best DJs and they go, what the hell just happened?
yeah,
That
it's
show
like a switch.
but there is a standard, there's a model that you want to be taken seriously, especially if you're looking for sponsorship dollars. They want to know that you're able to deliver. They want to know that you're not just a who, what, why, where, when,
Yeah,
that you're making something happen, but it still keep that real element to it. And that's what I like about the live streams. You never know what somebody's going to say. You
yeah,
never know how it's going to go down. And you're
I
live
love
right
it.
out there to the world, especially if you're on the front page of Twitch doing this, and you have thousands of people watching and they're in the chat room going,
I know.
chatting
You
away.
have
I
a great
love it.
relationship with your dad?
I do actually. Yeah, he is now turning. At this podcast, he will be 36, 86 years old.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so great relationship with them. Love him to death. He's kind of my entrepreneurial, outgoing sense comes from his rearing. My more loving, nurturing side comes from my mother, but they're both loving parents. They're
Yeah.
both amazing parents. I love them both. And yeah, I kind of took after my dad when it comes to business, going to getting the business degree, owning my own companies, kind of competitive, athletic. That comes from kind of his side of things.
I love it. Do you have any siblings?
Three brothers and a sister, and not yeah, I was the baby of all of them.
Oh, okay.
So definitely grew up, but my dad had been married a couple times, so I was the my mom and dad, I'm their only child. So
Okay, I see.
two older brothers
So,
and older brother, older sister. But yeah, I mean, I just yeah, we didn't have the traditional family life though in the 80s. Both my parents worked.
okay.
So you know how it was growing up I think I just saw something online. It was a meme that says don't mess with Gen Xers. We were the kids that, if you're around 42 or 46, we were the kids that went out all day. We were sent out of the house all day. We didn't come
Yeah.
home till the street lights were on. We were probably in the forest building a fort. We probably knew 25 different ways to get blood out of our clothes. We
Yeah.
drank from garden hoses. We made jumps. We played with gasoline. We probably could have cut our fingers off 85 times and, playing with fireworks or riding bikes and BMX bikes and, doing crazy stuff completely unmonitored
So
almost.
was it strict growing up in your household? Was your parents strict?
No, I was dating this girl once and she had twin daughters. And my plan to get everything under control was to write a list of rules. Somehow I left this list of rules up on the computer at the time. My dad printed it out and went to lunch with my mom and said, Denise, check out what I found from Darren the other day. My mom called me up and he said, I don't know if I can swear on your show. What
You
the F
can,
is
for
this?
sure.
What the fuck is this? We never had you roll any of these rules before. And I go, I know, but I'm trying to dial this in. I'm my first time kind of being a parent. And it was simple rules. It wasn't anything crazy. Like,
Let's
hey,
hear some of them.
don't yell, don't talk back,
This
listen
is
to
what you're
mom.
asking children to
The
do?
children, they were 12 years old at the time. And because I found myself that I had asked their mother, I said, hey, they're starting to ask me questions and for authority type based questions like, can we do this? Can we do that? And I'm like, I don't want to just default and say, ask mom, ask mom, ask mom, because then that puts
Yeah.
me in a secondary or back. Well, we're never going to ask Darren because he doesn't have any authority. So I'm like,
Yeah.
what do I do? How do we take some authority? And, there needed to be a little bit of control, sense of something laid down, that I could help to manage this situation that was going on. And that was my first attempt. And yeah, not that the relationship didn't work out. Actually, I'm friends with both of them on all three of them still on Facebook, the mother and the two daughters. I
Yeah.
don't talk to them very often, but it was a very interesting situation. I have since then dated other women with children and have had a much more insightful approach to it because they both We're much younger children, like in their
Yeah.
like 2 years
Yeah, it's
old, two and
hard.
a half
12
years
years old, they've already developed, grown,
old.
mastered some stuff, and and they can say you're just some dude, right?
Yeah, pretty much at
Dude,
that point.
and you're now going to tell me what to do? I don't think so. My mom's going to be
Yeah.
done with you soon. I don't need to listen to you. So and so, so and so.
Yeah, unfortunately. And it didn't end that way. It didn't end necessarily that way. Like I said, we're still friends on Facebook. But
That's
it
important.
was
Facebook friends
still
are important.
it was still an interesting time. Um yeah,
Let's move on to your next song.
sure. Like, yeah. And
Trying to survive.
This is like a great song.
okay. So
You got to have a good story for this one.
it's not in that. I was just at the beach last weekend and a kid started playing this.
No way.
I went, yes, The Ghetto by Too Short. I love that track, which is so funny because how I was introduced by Too Short, my brothers were punk rockers and into rock music. They had a punk rock band called Big Top. And yeah, so I was 15 years old and my brother comes to me one day, picks me up from school. He goes, Darren, I got something for you to listen to. And it was the Life is Too Short album, which is his second album, I believe. I think Born to Mac was his first. Maybe it was his third album. But anyways, Life is Too Short, and he puts in this song called Cuss Words, and it's like Too Short is just laying it down, and Too Short produces all his own music. He doesn't sample. Maybe he has since then, but back in the day, he was big on I don't sample. I'm a drummer out of Oakland. I make my own beats, produce my own beats. And his style of rap was just unlike anything I had heard, West Coast Oakland rap. And his second album, that next album that came out, was Short Dogs in the House, and it had The Ghetto on it. And what I love, I was too short all the way. Like people fall in love with Tupac or Biggie. That was before Tupac and Biggie. I was too short. Like I remember working on the hip hop television show that I started working on out of high school called the Cool Out Network with my friend Giorgio Brown. It was right out of high school, started working in public access television. And he's like, if you could see one rapper and meet one rapper, who would that be? And I'm like, Too Short. Like, I would probably fanboy if I met Too Short, you know? And you know, he had his West Coast upbringing, you know, his West Coast stuff. But what I loved on that album though, on the Short Dogs in the House album, was that there was an instrumental version of The Ghetto. And this is right when I had a Discman and I could be at home and I could put that Discman on repeat. And I would put that on repeat and just let it play 24 hours a day. I'd wake up listening to it, come home listening to it, let it play while I was at home listening to it, and just let it just play 3-4 days straight till I put another disc in, you know. And just I love that instrumental, which kind of got me into more of a down tempo. You can see that down tempo influence starting to come in with that track of just listening to that instrumental of that, you know, dum 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 dum.
What do you think that is that when people do that? Because you get so addicted to a song or instrumental something that you just constantly. Do you think it's something that's going on with you, that this is like maybe releasing some energy? Like, have you ever put any thought into it? Because, you know, when I listen to a song over and over again, maybe there's a lyric part of there that is just like resonating me with right now until I'm like dealing with something or whatever it is. I always feel like Enya did that a lot for me as well, right? Enya's music, it was always just like, oh my God, I feel like I'm just kind of releasing stuff. I don't know what it is. I was just curious if you had a thought why you did that or why people do that.
You know, I actually still do it to this day, but I do it in a much longer form. As I was mentioning, Groove Salad by Soma FM is always on in the background. And what happens is I've listened to it so much, they go in waves with the tracks. I know when it's going to hit a wave of tracks now because I can hear, oh, that song. Oh, and then this song's next, this song's that. And I can recognize the familiar patterns with it. So I literally am listening to Soma FM on repeat all the time. Even though their track list, it may take 2 to 4 weeks to go through every song to play. I can recognize when songs are coming up and go, oh, this is going to be a good wave. You know, and I go into my phone and I try to bookmark the song. So I probably bookmark almost probably 75% of the library they play on Groove Salad. But that is me still doing that. And that I get a decompression.
Yeah.
I get okay, I can sit back. Okay, I'm gonna go over and get a glass of water. Oh, this track comes on. I'm gonna turn it up just a little bit. I'm pausing what I'm doing right now. I'm gonna turn this up, and I will still get goosebumps all over my up, and it just okay. I'll take that pause moment and know that that's a track I've been listening to for 10, 15 years,
Yeah.
and that moment comes out, but I'm still playing stuff on repeat. I mean, that would be that. So I think that it's cathartic, it's releasing, it's relaxing to me. Um, to
It's
have
like
that
a
happen.
glass of wine.
That sounds wonderful to have after I'm done with business for today.
But that's what it kind of like, that's how
Yeah,
music kind of feels like to me. It's like,
yeah,
it's my drug, right?
yeah.
It's my drug of choice. That's what I'm, choosing to do. That's how I feel anyways.
Mhm.
When I'm like obsessed with a song or I have to listen to this or whatever it is, you described it really, really well. I like that.
Mhm.
All right. Next song. Speaking of Shining Star.
Yeah, Shiny Star, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Oh wow. Again, going back to the disco years, the youth, that song right there, I consider myself to be a very positive person. I have a positive mental influence or PMI, something I talk about a lot. And, you know, I have a theory I tell a lot of people. It's like if I get angry or if I'm upset, you can put on 70s disco music or 80 pop music, and I will sit there and go, you mother okay, now I gotta dance to this song. What was I angry about? Or I believe everyone with that particular song there, Shining Star, it's kind of like a cheerleader song to me. It picks me up, it lets me remind me that I'm a special, unique individual. I'm a shining star out of billions and billions of billions and zillions and infinity amount of galaxies, that I'm a star on my own. But as the song says, you're a shining star. You're a shining star, no matter who you are. Shining bright, you see what you can truly be. And I believe everyone has the potential
Yeah.
in them to be what they can truly be. And that song just means so much to me, that pumps me up. We have these mobile studio trucks. I don't know if you went to our website and saw our mobile. Basically, think of it like the Willy Wonka glass elevator on the back of a truck with a concert grade sound system with DJs and people partying in the back, that we drive around the streets of Seattle and Phoenix, Arizona. So when I go to get my car, this is the only time I won't listen to some FM, is I have my YouTube playlist, and because I like the videos too, but I'll play these songs out of our truck while I'm driving the truck to position it from where I park it to downtown Seattle, and people will be on the streets just going, "Wait a second!" And it's kind of known in Seattle now that we have the disco truck,
Yeah.
and the DJ disco truck, and see, it's kind of like a Seattle icon thing now that no other cities have. That we do it every Friday and Saturday night, and driving around, and disco music is what I used to like pump me up and get that out there. And I think we're gonna start hitting into some of those disco songs as
That'd
well.
be fun. Yeah.
Um, you know,
So favorite disco outfit if you could go back in time and wear.
I would definitely I would rock a Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah.
I just bought a white suit,
Do you have
and
a hairy chest?
no, there's no hair in it. No,
Just
no
lots of
gold
hair around
chain.
your nipples
No,
or just
actually,
no hair?
there was a Halloween that I dressed up as a character from a cartoon, anime, I shouldn't say, the Boondocks. And there's a character in there called a pimp named Slickback, and he wears a whole like purple suit. And
Nice.
so one year I got this whole like purple. I had the platform shoes with the water and the dice in them. I had the purple velour pants with like this purple velour shirt. Had a big pimp hat with a nice feathered hair wig. I went in a nice cane that I wore, like it was a glass cane with a ball on top of it. And I was like, I'm a pimp named Slickback. So that was kind of really fun. I think I still got those shoes. I think I still have the shoes with the dice in them.
No way.
Yeah, yeah.
What were
I don't.
you like in high school?
Uh, I knew everyone. Well, I went to actually 7 different schools in 5 years.
Oh,
So
wow.
I went to Eisenhower, 7th grade. I went to private school, 8th grade. I went to Cascade, 9th grade. I went to Mariner, 10th grade. I went to uh, Costa Mesa High School, 11th grade, and then came up and went to Seattle Chief South High School, 11th grade, and then I graduated from Cascade High School in the 12th grade. So,
Wow.
yeah.
How
So
come so many?
just moved around. Like, I mean, we moved from one district. Like when I went to private school, I went back to back to the Everett school. So it was in the Everett school. The Eisenhower and Cascade were in the Everett school district. So when I went to Eisenhower, that was Everett school district. Then I went out of that to private school, and then came back into the Everett school district. And then we moved 3 miles, and I was in another school district, so I had to go to Mariner. And then my dad decided to move us down to LA, and so I went down to Costa Mesa, which I went to Newport Harbor High School, and lived in Newport Harbor, and then came back up to live with my mom for a hot second. Went to Chief South High School here in Seattle, and then my dad moved back up to Seattle into the Everett School District and went back to Cascade.
Oh, wow.
And it was interesting because everyone thought I died. I'm like, no, I didn't die. But that being
Hard to make
said,
friends when you're doing that, when you're moving all over the place.
it was very interesting. At first, you would meet. I was the new kid,
Yeah.
and then they kind of found out I'm kind of more on the. I consider myself a dork, geek, nerd is probably my favorite term. Revenge of the Nerds is one of my favorite top movies of all time.
Love
I
it.
love it. I love it, love it, love it. And so, I kind of didn't fit in because I had come from being in the same area, living in the same house for so long, and knowing the same kids and growing up with them from, grade school, middle school, and even just in the same neighborhood and the same brothers and sisters and all that tier, to now having to meet new kids. So you meet the new kids and you're popular for a second. And then I found myself kind of gravitating towards the kids who I always like to hang out with the underdogs. My mom brought this up to me at one point, and she says, Darren, you don't hang out with the popular kids. And she's being nice in the terms of this. You hang out with the not popular kids. She says, why do you do that? I guess my answer to it at the time, I don't remember it, but she told me this later on. She goes, because I have fun when I hang out with them. The
Yeah.
popular kids, they were kind of boring to me, I guess. I found the nerds and the geeks, we were doing nerdy and geeky things, and we were in our own world. We could have our own fun and our own imagination and play and do our
Be
own.
themselves,
So
right? Everyone
be
is
ourselves. Yeah.
this
You know,
popular group where you're like, you can't express yourself or talk about something or disagree.
exactly.
Oh my God, the mean
Yeah.
girls, it's
Yeah, exactly. So, but later on when I went to high school and in my senior year in high school, I started getting a little bit into what you could say fashion. So I would wear suits to school. I would carry a
wow.
briefcase to school.
You did
I
not.
would
My
wear
last guest carried a briefcase to school.
I would wear a fedora, carry a briefcase, wear suits to school some of the times, Um, but I mean, it was pretty interesting. Um, I didn't do that till my senior year though. But my those other years, I was kind of just moving in and out and making friends and trying to get through.
Yeah.
Um,
What was your most challenging thing that you went through in high school?
I was a late bloomer when it came to dating. I
Okay.
didn't
So how
date.
old were you when you started dating?
Really dating. I graduated when I was 17.
Okay.
So I graduated basically like a year earlier than most kids because they graduate 18. I graduated at 70. My mom could have put me in a year later, but they didn't because where my birthday falls in August. They could have said, "Oh, we'll put them in a year later," but they put me in
Yeah.
early and like,
I experienced it too. I did 16. I graduated at
yeah.
16.
And so, yeah, I think it was. I mean, I was always nice to girls. Well, the one thing I like is that my mom said this to me. She said, "Growing up, Darren, you were always comfortable around girls." And as a matter of fact, growing up in our neighborhood, I remember there was a slumber party once. The girls were all like, girls, 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 slumber party. And they're like, no boys allowed. For some reason, I said, well, what about me? Can I go? And they go, yeah, Darren can come. So I was the only guy I
Oh,
think could go
you're
to
a
the
safe
girls' slumber
guy.
party. Yeah, I was like, all right, cool. And I was like, okay. But I never I didn't I mean I did the kissy and no
Yeah.
thing, but I really didn't have the high school sweetheart, the high school girlfriend till I was out of school, and kind of got into the partying kind of world and had my first girlfriend. I was 19 years old. I think she was 17 or 18, something like that. I think she was 18, maybe should be 18. But
Let's go with 18.
yeah, let's go with 18. But
She is 15, but she told me she was 18.
no, it was just young stupidity. Looking
Yeah.
back on it, going, if I had to give the advice that was given to me when I was 19 years old, I could go, gosh, I sound like my dad. Shit.
Did you play a song when you lost your virginity?
Not when I lost my virginity. No, that was actually while I was still in school. I was 15 and a half.
Oh, wow.
So
You're young.
I don't
Late
think
bloomer to date, but young bloomer to.
yeah, I don't think there was technically a song. I was in that again, that too short kind of hip hop realm of hanging out with my friends and going to the skate deck
Yeah.
and hanging out at the mall, kind of phase of life. Um, Pearl Jam and Soundgarden and Nirvana were active, and Red Hot Chili Peppers. I was also listening to them on the back end. Um, you know, uh, there was on this is another thing that happened on Saturday nights. I believe it was Saturday nights in Seattle here on 101.5. They had the disco music that would go from 10 o'clock till midnight. So you had all the disco hits for 2 hours. And I remember staying up late on Saturday nights and you'd hear that, and that was your kind of disco kick of getting those songs in. So I'd be like, yeah, I'd dance into that. Or if we were out cruising or doing something with, but or with the skate deck also played all a
Yeah.
wider range of family music, disco music. They couldn't play, you would get there and there was 2 sessions. There was like I think it was the 7 to 9 session and the 9 to 11 session, I believe. And they couldn't play rap music till after 10 o'clock.
Oh, no way.
So for like the last hour, they could play Sir Mix-a-Lot, Baby Got Back, you know?
That everybody knows off by.
Yeah, exactly. So,
All right.
yeah, because the parents would complain, you're playing rap music, but they could play other stuff there. So the skate deck had a nice array of jukebox music, although there was a DJ playing the music. So that was
All
kind of cool.
right. All right.
Yeah.
Love this next song. It's such a great intro.
Yeah.
You just know what it is. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter where you are in the world. If you hear that song, you're like, I know this song. Oh my God. Super fun. Car Wash.
Car Wash by Rose Royce. And that one was one of those songs when I was talking about the disco music being played on the station. They would either play it in the beginning or they play it halfway through. And I would go crazy. I just love it. It was just such a fun song because it's like, hey, you're at work, but make sure you're having fun at work and you never know what's going to happen to you at work. Funny enough, it's the one song that actually was made that they ended up making the movie off of the song because it was so popular. Richard Pryor, George Carlin
Yeah.
starred in it. And it was it was the movie based on the song that came out. I thought that was interesting, but always a mover, always a get up and goer. One that just, you know, it kind of leads to the premise of my attitude towards my work life. I want to have fun at work.
Yeah.
And you never know who you might meet, a movie star, you maybe meet somebody just working at the car wash, and I kind of think about it like you're at a nightclub. You never know who you're going to meet on the dance floor at the nightclub or out and about, and keeping a kind of positive attitude no matter what. If those cars keep on coming, keep those lines and machines humming.
Have you met somebody, and you don't necessarily have to say their name if you don't want to, but have you met somebody that you were excited about meeting to interview and they were just not what you expected at all?
You mean like they were over the top or really
No,
just like,
like you just maybe
yeah.
expected them to be a little bit more outgoing, or, like you were excited about interviewing them. And then you're going through this process and you're just like, oh my God, you're kind of a dud. Like, how do
It,
you do it?
it's not so much that. The toughest thing is when I'm interviewing people from all over the world and there's the language barrier. It's very tough because they'll go and they'll do very short sentences. And I know it's not because they're not interested, it's because I don't speak Dutch or I don't speak
Yeah.
German or I don't speak Taiwanese or Japanese. And so I'm getting very short answers from them, and it's hard to try to pull them and get them to kind of
Yeah.
wake up. So I got to kind of be the, well, hey, da-da-da-da. So usually if I know that they're, it's for, I'll put like, I usually have about 14 to 16 questions. But if I know it's somebody who might have, a language barrier, I might put like 25 or 30 questions. So
Yeah.
I keep it going. in case, something happens. And they're just shorter questions, but not really fuddy-duddy. I mean,
What about like
most
somebody you were super excited? Like, were you ever nervous to interview somebody?
you know, not really, but yes. Funny enough, this is a kind of interesting one. We had requested an interview a few months ago with an artist. She's not really even an electronic music artist. We kind of opened up our spectrum, opened our doors to more people. But if they use electronic music in their creation of
Yeah.
music, then we consider them an electronic music artist. But it was Marie Benary. I don't know if she's a very, 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 very famous violinist. And I just knew the name, saw the interview come in on the roster. I'm like, all right, cool. So let me go do my research. I start researching her. She has played at presidential gala events for the presidents of the
Wow.
United States, like multiple presidents of the United States. Hillary Clinton hires her. She's a UN ambassador, worldwide touring violinist. I mean, and for a second there, I got a little intimidated going,
Yeah.
whoa. And I got a little fanboyed as well, going, whoa, you know, it kind of, I think I popped my cherry with this when I interviewed Paul Oakenfold. And Paul Oakenfold is a very, very prominent, still one of the world's biggest, famous, known DJs out there. It's been out there
Yeah.
for 30 years. And because it was Paul Oakenfold's, he was the first electronic DJ mix discs. It was a double disc compilation by Global Underground. The whole Global Underground series, 001 to I think they made 20 of them. And they took these world renowned DJs at the time. This is 99, 2000, 2001. Took these DJs and made these mix it compilations, double disc mix compilations. And there are some of the most classic tracks that you'll ever hear in the electronic music world on those from 20 years ago. You can listen to them today and you'd be like, when was this made? This was 20 years ago, and this is Paul Oakenfold's one. This is Danny Tangelia's. This is Sasha. This is Digweed's. A number of the top DJs. And I remember on the back of the album, I had an interview with Paul Oakenfold, and I just got all my new camera gear and all this new stuff set up. And he comes on the couch, and I just slayed the interview with him. I had like 7 minutes backstage with him, and I managed to pull some information off the back of the album, and I quoted it, and he kind of laughed, and we really kind of did this thing. And like I said, popped my cherry with Paul Oakenfold because this is the big of the big, and this was in 2007, so it wasn't too far
Yeah.
away from what was going on. But unfortunately, the audio of that interview got messed up because we didn't
Oh,
set our equipment up correctly. But I think that kind of set a precedence to say, I can go for the gold. I can ask for the
yes.
name and I can get it. And, it wasn't till later, so I started doing the DJ sessions, that I had a chance to interview Dave Dresden at Winter Music Conference in 2009. And then he came to play in Seattle in late 2009. And I had asked the PR contact that I made, said, hey, was there a chance if we can get him on the show? And I asked, can he come by my apartment? And this is when the show was set up in my bedroom. And so I asked Dave Dresden, world renowned DJ from Gabriel and Dresden, to come by and play in a tiny little one bedroom, but almost studio apartment, come
Yeah.
play my bedroom. And that set's still up live on our site to this day, one of the most memorable moments. And so I'm sitting there and I'm watching Dave, and they say, sure, he's going to do an interview and play a set. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm sitting there and I'm watching this and I go, holy shit, I'm on to something here. I'm onto something here. What if instead of just doing local DJs, what if I invite the A-list celebrity DJs out of town to come by the show and do an interview and play a guest mix? And that'll help give credibility to the show as an influencer.
Yeah.
The term influencer really wasn't even there yet in social media world. It was, but it wasn't coined yet, really.
Yeah.
And have them kind of social influence the show to share it on socials, like, look what I'm on. But then the local DJs would kind of get the bonus that people would be watching the show and tuning in because they got the local DJs coupled with the celebrity DJs, which is something that doesn't, it happens in nightclubs because the DJs are the opening DJs for the headliners. But
Yeah.
for a live streaming show, a radio show,
Doesn't
not
happen.
so often. It does happen a little bit more now, but yeah, I think I popped that cherry a long time ago. And
That's good
and
though.
I had always been playing with video cameras, and I had been in the news a few times as a kid, been on the evening news. Actually took number 8 in the Nintendo World State Championships when I
Oh,
I
wow.
was 12 years old.
So
Yeah,
you
it
like
qualified
video
me to
games.
go to LA and play in the national championships, and I was in the front page of the newspaper for that. Um, always had a passion for media. I never really wanted to be in front of the camera though. My friend Giorgio, who I worked with on the Cool Out Network, the hip hop television series that we worked on, he was always trying to say, "You got an outgoing personality. You belong in front of the camera. You belong in front of the camera." And if it's a few years after him trying to get me in front of the camera, he says to me, "Darren, how come you don't want to be in front of the camera?" I said, "Because everyone you have in front of your camera, they're gone in 6 months. I want to learn how to make these shows. I want to be on the back end producing these shows, and I want to be." Most people don't know who Aaron Spelling is or Michael Lauren. I'm like, I want to be a television producer. I want to produce TV shows. I don't want to do
Aaron
film.
Spilling's money.
I'm not, yeah, exactly. I'm not, Steven Spielberg or Lucas or going for that, the filmmaker. I want to be the television producer, and produce episodic shows over and over again. So kind of found myself doing that.
I love it. It's awesome though. Like you've created such a great brand for yourself. Then obviously you're doing something that nobody else is doing. And that's what I love about it as well. Okay. Next song. I remember. So I want you, before you tell your before you tell the story, I want to ask you, obviously, we both have raved. So I want you to go back 20 years when you raved, and then now take it 20 years to when you rave now. What are 3 biggest differences that you notice? And you could say drugs if you think the drugs are different.
No, I just had this conversation with a gentleman who has a 30-year history. Yeah, I asked him, the same kind of question is, and we were talking about this in the previous interview, that when I went, and I actually would say 20 years ago, I go back almost 30 years to 92 when I went to my first rave at NAP Studios here in Seattle. Actually, no, it was my first rave I ever went to was Green X and Ham, and Donald Glaude was spinning at that rave, and we got a flyer for it, and it was like the character from the book Green Eggs and Ham, and I'm a huge Dr. Seuss fan. And so we went to Green Eggs and Ham, and I remember having the conversation with my friends, like, I wonder if the ticket's gonna have acid on it. I wonder if the stand, I wonder if we're gonna get high for all these questions because we never had been to a rave before, But the one thing that I don't necessarily see out there, and I think a lot of people that have been around for a time in this and seeing the rise of electronic music becoming commercialized in the way it was, is that when we went, you had all types of people coming together and having a great time. You had jocks, you had goth, you had,
and it was in a field, and you drove there.
It was in a warehouse. You had everyone getting together and having a great time. Just everyone partying. There wasn't the cliques being formed at that time in the first early days of what I saw in raves here in Seattle. And it's just really, really, really an awesome time to see. And then eventually later on in my life, I started getting into the more of the bourgeois nightclub scene. Like we're the cool kids, we're in the VIP, because I would hang out with a lot of the top promoters in town and not have to wait in line to get in the clubs and be in the VIP section or be in the count room afterwards and be able to go to the VIP parties. I actually started my premise of wanting to write my book on how to work a nightclub and make your nightclub experience the best it can be. I've been talking about doing this for almost 30 years. Well, no, probably 20 years now. And like the rules that I have of how you work a nightclub to get what you want to get, and the different levels of stature within the nightclubs of just through my observance. And you can put these rules down and look at these different statures. Like I call it the A, B, C, D, and E personality type within the club. And then the 4 rules, if you want to get into them, we can talk about it another time. But yeah, the things that change, I think it's definitely cliquey. It's definitely commercially. It's the big money got involved. I personally went in 2017. I went to my first, what you would say, inclusive festival called Cascadia here in Washington, and I met some amazing people that were Burning Man people. And later that year, I ended up going to a major festival called the Eclipse Festival in Oregon, the Oregon Eclipse Festival, and had a great time there. Another inclusive, all-inclusive festival, non-commercial. And they would tell me it's like Burning Man, but it's not like Burning Man, because at Burning Man, there's no cash transactions except for the ice you have to buy, and there's one coffee stand. Everything else is kind of trade, gifted, and all that. Well, Eclipse, they actually had vendor booths. So it was
Yeah.
Burning Man-esque, but not Burning Man. But it wasn't commercial. Budweiser wasn't everywhere. Coca-Cola was there. It
Yeah.
wasn't $8 for a bottle of water and you're trapped in like EDC. You go inside, you're trapped inside, and it's $8 bottle of water, $15 for a sandwich.
Yeah.
And if
It's
you want to go back to
ridiculous.
your car and leave, you're out for the
Yeah.
night.
Yeah. It's
You
stupid.
know, so if you get in there at 12 o'clock in the day and your artist that you want to see is on at 2 in the morning, you got to stay there all day long. And there's nowhere to sleep or crash or shower or change your clothes or anything.
Yeah.
So, though I'm not opposed to those, but I'm just, what I prefer is those kind of, and I found that there's a different type of attitude and vibe at the all-inclusive festival camping ones than there is at the, you know, bigger festivals where you can say that the bros come, you know, and it's kind of this EDM vibe as opposed to an electronic music vibe. But then I also hear that the culture in the States is much different than the culture in Europe. And I'm planning to go to Europe this year and go to the ADE event, which is like 400,000 people a day, and experience that for the first time of seeing what European culture is like. But of course, there's 400,000 people coming in from around the world going, blah.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
that'll be
I think I agree. And one thing I miss so much about going to raves back in the day was it was like a tank top and long pair of pants for girls. And it was like, now it's turned into, yeah, I think it's awesome that you appreciate your body and all of that is great and you should do that. But I don't think that you need to do that to appreciate your body. So I don't like that it's went down this road where, you know, I now would feel uncomfortable even wearing a t-shirt because 90% of you have, you know, tape on your tits. That's not about music. That's just about, now you're just dressing for the event.
Well, I think that definitely has to do something with, you know, in my opinion, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a social media strategist, but I do spend an enormous amount of time on the socials and have watched the rise of socials and pre-social events. You know, even the advent of me having the first cell phone at 18 years old and having a pager before that, but having a cell phone. And then I've had technology. I've been an early adapter to technology my whole life, but you know, it's now that look at me generation, you know, and it's you know, that psychological blowback that you have of the Instagram filters and look at me and what am I doing to get more hits, more likes, and I got to use my outward appearance to do that, and I got to look that way on social media. And almost it takes that television world we were talking about earlier of the facade of Hollywood and puts it on the individual user. Now you have TikTok out there that I get it, but I try to make TikTok movies of just my cooking videos, and I'm like, fuck, this is a process, you know. At each part, I'm like, shit, my garlic's burning. Oh shit, okay, my meatballs are burning. Okay, my shit, and I'm trying to do a video and trying to make it, and in the end, compile this video and put it to music. I laugh my ass off at my own TikTok videos, but you know, people are making these production, and they'll shoot the shot to get the right one, so they can put the right one in there and make this. They're their own producer, their own editor, and their own director, and their own distributor now, and they're trying to go for those hits and those likes. And the blowback is a lot of these, there's been documentaries on this. I can't remember the name of the one, but it's they document these people who had such a big online following, and then they go offline and they go, their depression level, they just almost want to commit suicide.
More dopamine going into their bodies.
Exactly. And people don't understand that that's what's happening, is that dopamine trigger, that reaction that's going on, and how it's almost like, should social media be banned as a drug? You know, I mean, what do we do now that social
regulate it a little bit, especially if you have somebody like, you know, the stuff young girls or you can see on social media. It's just, and it's so scary. Like my son is getting married next week, and he's marrying a beautiful girl, but even that, it's all about like likes and all of that stuff. And yeah, I agree. Anyways, we can go down a rabbit hole with that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So you know, going back to like raves and what's changed, I think obviously the commercialization of it, and I think with the commercialization, it opens the floodgates to people who don't know the culture, embrace the culture, and they just want to get there, and then like, well, what can I do to stand out? And I'm away from mom and dad, and I can wear whatever I want, and look at me, and you know, and that's good. I believe there is that good freedom of expression, but from what I hear, the differences between the US electronic market, the European market, they're like standing around. We were doing that when we were 14 and 15. We're adults here now. And we
Yeah.
were drinking when we were young. There's just from what I hear, a different vibe in the European event community,
Yeah.
big events as a whole, that here we strive to be 18 so we can be independent. We strive to be 21 so we can buy alcohol. So we strive to be in the bar and we can live that Budweiser. Look at this on the beach dream, and look at me, I'm doing it on the beach, mom. Oh shit, my mom's my friend. Whoops, mom, we didn't see that. You know, type of society. You know, but it's all
Crazy.
relative. I was at a nightclub the last weekend, sitting there with my girlfriend, and these four girls walk in. And I go, fuck, honey. And I'm 16 years older than my girlfriend. And I look at it, I go, fuck, honey, I'm getting too old for this shit. You
I
know?
know, it's
I mean, I'm
crazy.
just like, I looked at it, I go, are these girls 16 years old? Am I seeing this wrong? And I know they're over 21. I know the bouncer, I know the whole club. I know they're over 21, but I'm like, and I'm thinking, yep, I used to be that young. I used to come in the clubs that young and be here that young. And bless their little souls. Bless them.
They'll have fun.
They'll have fun, you know.
All right, we're gonna play your last song.
Okay.
Do you have a request for the last song?
Well, we just did I Remember, and I did get shivers when you played that, and just a little history on that one. That one to me, that one to me transcends everything of just remembering everyone. It reminds me of everyone I've ever shook hands with or smiled with or hung out with, whether we're frenemies, enemies, they hate me now, whatever. I always remember the the good times, the positivity of life. And that song always brings me. I almost shed a tear every time I hear that song. I'm gonna almost shed a tear just thinking about it right now. I love that song so much by Dead Mouse. Just a huge, meaningful song to me. Just to remember that, you know, even though I might not like somebody or they might not like me, I still remember good times. I still have peace or a good feeling for them of the times we used to smile and hang out. I won't hold on to that anger or hatred. You know, I can be upset and be like, okay, I'm not going to talk to that person. I'm not going to, but I still, that song brings it back and goes, just remember a time when we were all cool with each other. Um, well, I guess if I want to pick one, God, oh my God, this is so
I know
tough.
it's tough.
I mean, oh God, I would have to go and I'll have to choose this. Otherwise, she will totally never forgive me for not doing this. But I'll have to go with Disclosure, When a Fire Starts to Burn.
Okay, you ready?
Mhm.
When a fire starts to burn, right, and it starts to spread, she gonna bring that attitude home. You don't wanna do nothing with their life. When a fire starts to burn, right, and it starts to spread, she gonna bring that attitude home.
Ah, okay.
I've never heard that song before. So when I was listening to your playlist, I was like, what the hell? Right away, I'm like, save it. I have like I just call it my guest list. And like any song that I haven't heard, I'm like, put it on there, put it on there. I was like, this is awesome. I love this song.
So what's behind that? I heard that song a few years ago in a nightclub, and I thought it was an old school house song. I'd never heard it before. I of course flipped out. I was like, this is the bee's knees. I love this track. So Sarah, the love of my life, girl I'm dating right now, our third date should have been a third date. Third date? Oh, she has it all written down in the book. She knows. Well, she on our second date, she had asked me to go to this Disclosure concert. And we were having such a great time. Somehow I forgot that she had asked me to go to the
Nice.
show. So one morning I wake up and I'm like, hey, what are you up to? She's like, oh, I just went and saw a Broadway play and I was doing some shopping. I was just at Nordstrom Rack, which I live a block away from Nordstrom Rack, downtown Seattle. And I'm like, all right, cool. Well, what are you doing? You want to hang out? And she's like, yeah. So we hang out, we go get some drinks and we're talking. And this is very early on. I didn't know much about her. And I said, oh, so what are you doing tonight? She goes, she just comes out and she just goes, I'm going to the Disclosure concert. That was it. And I went, oh, okay. And because she didn't say anything about it, I was like, I didn't want to pry because she said, I'm going to Disclosure. I didn't know she had a date. I didn't know she was going with somebody else or friends. I didn't want to impose. I didn't say anything. The funny thing is she was waiting for me because she knew she had asked me to go. And I was just sitting there kind of silent. And so a little bit of time passed. And I go, hey, would you like some company to go with you to the Disclosure concert tonight? And she goes, yeah, I asked you if you wanted to go. And I'm like, you did? And now I didn't know who Disclosure was. I thought maybe they were a rock band because we hadn't gotten into musical taste yet.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about this. So this is one of the first shows that this is April-ish. So right after things are starting to basically open back, we're talking big concerts. So it's at WAMU Theater, probably like 10,000, 12,000 people, maybe. I'm thinking, maybe I don't know the exact numbers, but we get there and it's electronic music. And I'm like, yes, she likes
Nice.
electronic music. I'm like, yes, yes. I still didn't know who Disclosure was. And there was an opening DJ for them. I can't remember. Can't remember who the opening DJ was, but it was electronic music. So I'm like, okay, at least they got a DJ opening up. I'm going to have fun tonight. I'll make it through. If it's a band, I'll make it through. I mean, I'm not against rock music, but I was like, I'll try something new. It's a girl, getting to know her. And maybe she'll go to my shows, we'll do it straight up. So it's about halfway through the show. We're over by this bar. And all of a sudden, it's at the midpoint of the show. And I remember this now because they took kind of a little break, but they drop this song, When a Fire Starts to Burn. And you asked me earlier if I dance. I was dancing my ass off to that song. And I mean, it was so, and we had this nice space in the bar area. She's dancing and I'm dancing. We're just dancing. I mean, just rocking it out. So that song actually became our song.
Oh, awesome.
And so that would probably be the one I'd want to end on because I just love her so much. I love that song. I love that memory of us having such a great time. And, it's a kind of an inside joke. No, it's actually not a joke. It's actually, I'm very serious about it, that there's something very special that we'll do at our wedding surrounding that song. If you watch the music video, you'll get what's
Okay,
gonna
I'm going
happen.
to, yeah.
But that being said, I've actually told her that I wanted to see if I can get Disclosure to actually come and play our wedding.
That'd be awesome.
And I hope she doesn't listen to this because there was something that happened yesterday that may make that actually a reality.
Oh, that'd be really cool.
Yeah. So
thank you, Darren, so much
absolutely
for joining me on the show today. But before I let you go, I just want you to, promote yourself. Tell our audience where we can find you, stalk you, hunt you down.
The best place to go is thedjsessions.com. And all of our socials are there at the top of the site. It's our brand new, well, not brand new. It's about a year older, about a year and a half old, but it's always going through adding additions to it. But the djsessions.com, all our socials are there. All our episodes are there. Live interview schedule, calendar of events, DJ mixes, our store, our news feed, 24 news stories a day, 600 news stories a month, all industry related. You can find us on Roku, Amazon Fire, Google Play, soon to be Apple TV. We got an app in the App Store and Google Play Store. You can download, put it on your phone. We have virtual reality nightclubs and alt space that are soft opened right now. That'll be grand opening soon, and a ton of stuff, more music, more news, more events coming your way on the djsessions.com.
I love it. And then before I let you go, why don't you give us some words of wisdom? With all your adversity you've been through in your life, what are some words of wisdom you could leave us?
I think the best one would be, and this is maybe cliche, but find something you like doing, invest yourself and time into it, and then find a way to make money at it. And then you'll be happy. That's that kind of age-old adage. Find something you love doing. Don't do something you don't like doing. Too many people do that. It could be because they like the money. They get the money, but they're depressed. I turned down a very prominent career working for corporate America and Apple, and a career ladder I could have climbed and could have transferred that and moved over to Amazon or Google in that means. And I said, nope, I'm going to go after and be an entrepreneur. So find out what makes you happy and go after that as your passion. And the money will come. Alan Watts, check out What Do I Desire by Alan Watts. I think that would sum up everything there. Find out what makes you happy and pursue that.
I love it. Great words of wisdom. Thank you again, Darren. Like, subscribe, follow, do whatever you have to do to go see more of him. I appreciate you so much. Tons of energy, tons of value. I am so going to ask you to do it again because we only got to like 5 songs. I think you were nervous. Maybe you were just like really nervous. I'm just kidding.
I can talk. That's
You definitely weren't nervous, so I appreciate that. Hope you had a good time on the show. I know I loved it, so I appreciate it.
Absolutely.